your Cockney betting Power Ranger. What should you pick? What should you put in your fucking bets? We have an embarrassment of riches for this week. Nearly everything that's been put forward is absolutely amazing. Now, different to the last weeks, I've actually went through every single selection and analysed them. But we'll see. Anyway, everyone's selections. Now, you'll see me at the top. Obviously, we're not going to get bored of that. If my bet comes in again, I will also remain at the top. In fact, if all four of the top four's bets come in, they will also be at the top. But look at this week's prediction, that column. Honestly, amazing. So we're going to start off Cardiff, Plymouth. Race to 2 goals. Now, this is my bet. Now, Cardiff are top of the table, having scored 7 goals. And they've only conceded 1 in their opening 5 games. Now, Plymouth, on the other hand, sit outside the relegation, scoring 4 and conceding 9. So we've got the worst defence against the best defence. So race to 2 goals. Cardiff aren't going to be letting in 2 goals. Now, I was going to do Cardiff to win, but honestly, from 1.4 to 1.7, we're getting massive value here. We've got Dan, right? So Hoffenheim and Frankfurt 2.5. Now, both of their openers saw over 2.5 and both teams to score. So you can mess around with that however you want. However, I think Dan's on a winner. We just expect goals to let rip here. That's the bottom line. Could they cancel themselves out? My only worry, it doesn't feature in my ACCO. Now we move on to Jim, who's gone on for Nashville. Now, by the way, some context, Jim loves the MLS. I do not like the MLS. However, Jim, over the past 8 weeks, 10 weeks, has been showing some real nice returns off the MLS. I've not been seeing that shit, but then I've not been really dipping my toes in the pool of Yankativity. So, unlike Europe, the MLS is very much in the latter stages of its leagues. Nashville sit in 4th with a 17+ goal difference. Whereas Atlanta are placed 27th. How fucking big are these leagues? And they've got a -18 goal difference. I expect Jim to be on a winner here. However, because of my dislike of the MLS, I've not included it. But I expect this to come in. No doubt. Next up, we've got Spurs versus Bournemouth. Both teams to score. This is by Mike. Now, both teams have scored in their previous 2 matches in the league. Thomas Frank has a well-organised defence. But if Bournemouth can slip 2 past Van Dijk and co, they can do it here. But honestly, Spurs are a different animal under Thomas Frank. So on the next fourfold, we've got Paddy, who's brought in HJK Helsinki. Now look, when you see other men bringing in Finnish leagues, yeah, they mean business. They've done their research. No one dips into the Finnish league without having some sort of logic. Now, I went into the logic. Now, 4th placed Helsinki are coming into this match with 4 wins in a row. And their opponents are coming into it with 4 losses in a row. It's 4th versus 12, but 4 losses versus 4 wins. That's in my ACCO all day long. I love that, Paddy. Next up, tags, Dinamo Zagreb. We're going to Croatia. Dinamo Zagreb, we'll see them in, Champions League occasionally, but mostly these days in the Europa, if not Conference. However, they are top of their league. They've won their last 4 games without conceding, may I add, without conceding. And when we look at who they're playing against, they've won 6 of their last 8 against that opponent. And they've never lost. So 6 wins, 2 draws. That is going in my ACCO. If you're going to show me bets that are looking at Finland and fucking Croatia, then I know it's looking good. Now, Nick, Bruno Fernandes, assist or score. Bruno will have a point to prove, as will Man United against newly promoted Burnley. United are 1.3 to win. However, Burnley's championship defensive record does worry me slightly here. They should have a point to prove after getting binned out of the league to 4th division opposition in Grimsby. I mean, this should be, again, a walk in the park. Doesn't make my acca, but Bruno, assist or score, they've got a point to prove here. And if they don't, then Amorim out. And last in the fourfold is Wigan Stockport over 2.5. Now, Castle, he's been flawless so far. So, as a bettor, I mean, I haven't included this in my personal bet, but he is really smashing it. And, when looking at Wigan and Stockport, in a rare occasion, these teams' last match was actually against each other. They just played each other. It was in the League Cup, so it's a little bit different, but it finished 1-0 to Wigan. Now, both teams' matches in the league yielded over 2.5 goals, but it's, for me, a bit of a risk, in my opinion, based on goals scored conceded in the last 5, which averages about 1.5 goals per game. Plus, they just played each other, they just figured each other out. Unless league form's going to be, completely different, again, should definitely be a walk in the park, and Castle hasn't given anything away for that to be anything but the case. Next fourfold. Bayern Munich win, 3 or more goals. Kev T. Now, at 1.53, this is a pretty safe bet. But did you know that Harry Kane has faced Augsburg 4 times and he scored every time? In fact, he's actually scored 7 times in the last 4 he's faced them. I like this bet. I'm going to be including it, but I'm going to be backing Harry Kane to score at any time at 1.44. So I'm going to back it a little bit differently. But come on, Bayern Munich might win. They did draw against them last season. That's my only apprehension. Moving on, Jeffries, Stuttgart versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. So the last 2 games between these two didn't yield much, but the Bundesliga famously does have the most amount of goals. Specifically, in the 2024 to 25 season, across every game, they averaged 3.13 goals per game. You're going to get goals. You're going to get goals. More often than not, you're going to get goals. So, next 2. Real Betis, Athletic Bilbao. Now, Darren has had some absolute worldies so far. Yeah, sure, it's only been 2. So we don't know yet. But I don't usually go to La Liga for goals. However, both teams mentioned here have hit 1.5 goals in 8 of the last 10 matches they were recently featured in. If that's not enough, then get fucked. But I won't be including that. But again, it's part of the bigger plan. Last but not least in this fourfold, we have Nottingham Forest versus West Ham. Now, 2 teams with off-field issues going on, and West Ham have by far the worst affected issues. However, Forest should breeze it. They should breeze it. Let's be honest. However, Graham Potter does already on his 3rd game in. If he doesn't get a win, he's fucked. He is already on the chopping block. That worries me. Therefore, I'm going to admit it. However, in the world of gambling, 11 versus 11. Maybe a Paquetá outside of the box goal should be Nottingham all day long, especially at home. Next fourfold. Big old Towie. Big old Terry. Trying to avoid 3 losses in a row. And we're going for Southend win, just straight up win. We got the 2 up feature already there. Now, Southend are unbeaten in the last 5, sitting 5th in the league. Solihull haven't won in the past 5, and they're sitting 21st. Away days in the National League are tricky, but I think Terry might have nailed this one. So we will see. I'll post my ACCA at the end. I didn't put this down as one of mine, but now I've written my little notes on it, I think I should include it. I think Terry's got a win here. Right, next up, Dortmund. There's no doubt there is a golfing quality between Dortmund and Union Berlin. However, Dortmund were unlucky to not win the last game against relegation contenders St. Pauli. So they were 3-2 up. It ended 3-3, but they did get a red card. You know what I mean? So really, Dortmund should have got that. But the thing is, Union Berlin won against Stuttgart in the last game. So there should be a big response from Dortmund. However, you don't know. I feel like there's a lot of conflicting things going on. Maybe look to BTTS to mitigate any fuck-ups here, but Dortmund are the heavy favourites. Heavy favourites here. Looking at Matt's selection of Chesterfield win 2 up. So really good odds. Second in the table, Chesterfield, to beat Crawley, who are languishing at 22. This is in my ACCA because Crawley Town haven't won a single game in their opening 5, whereas Chesterfield are absolutely firing. Crawley Town are absolute dog shit. Please add that to your ACCA. Well done, Matt Newcomb. I love that. Let's go. Man City to beat Brighton. Adam. One of the longest odds of all of the 24. Very similar to Gary's pick of Liverpool last time out. You know, don't overthink it. It's right there. It's right in front of you. Like Man City to beat Brighton. You know, there is value here at 1.75, and I expect City to cruise this, especially from a City. I think the odds of 1.7 are from a hangover from their loss at Spurs. But if City can get the first goal, this is a wrap. Put it in a spliff. Smoke it. Tell your mum about it. It's done. So that's them for. Right, next up, Racing Santander. Joe is a newbie to this to the group, but wow, he has started aplomb, I believe is the term they use. But Racing Santander were fantastic last season, and they are currently unbeaten in the last 5, whereas they're playing a team who have only won 1 in the last 5. So it's second bottom in the table. Against someone that's won 1 in 5, and that was against second bottom in the table. It's second place versus 20th. This is in my ACCA. I love Racing Santander. They're my boys in green. Next up, Jarrell. By the way, so he backed Grimsby, right? But he backed them before they beat United. This is a Gareth Southgate masterclass. Jarrell is really, again, brought in by Joe. Absolutely smashing it to bits. So, yeah, Grimsby might be fucking, in the back of the papers at the minute, but Jarrell called this beforehand. And by the way, the reason why he called this beforehand is because in the league, Grimsby are sitting 4th and Bristol Rovers are sitting 20th. And Bristol Rovers have won their last 2. Bristol Rovers have won their last 2. However, Grimsby are at home and they'll be rocking. They'll be rocking. Imagine that. Do you know that Man United have never lost to a 4th division team in any sort of competitive competition? That home game is going to be absolutely buzzing. Next up is Hayden. He's just on a win. Come on, Hayden. We're both looking now. It was actually this bet that made me think about doing my own bet, which is Real Madrid race to 2 goals. So Real Madrid have scored 11 goals in the last 5, whereas Mallorca have scored 6 against their opposition. However, they played Barca in that time, and they scored fuck all. Mallorca are scoring fuck all. This is in my ACCA. And Grimsby's in my ACCA, and Racing Santander is in my ACCA. They're coming in, bro. Then we move on to Kev G. We have Napoli win and 2 or more goals in the game. Napoli beat them 2-0 at home last season. They also beat them 4-0 away. Add a little bit of De Bruyne, a little sprinkle of Neeps and Daddies and McTominay. And McTominay's picked up where he left off. It's a goer. That is in my fucking echo. Then we come into the final 4. So this is the last bet. We have John, who is... I love John. He is a solid bettor. I have no doubt. I'd actually say this is going to come in. It has to come in because he's not going to do 3 in a row. And I've put it in my acca. So it's Stevenage to win or to draw. And they are my glasses off. That's how much I am excited about that. So, Stevenage is sitting 3rd place at the moment, whereas Wycombe are 21st in the table. Stevenage are coming off of a loss. However, their record prior is impressive. At least a draw here. Now we're looking at PSG with 2 up. So, both teams in League so it's PSG versus Toulouse, and both teams have started off their journeys perfectly with 2 wins in 2. However, the difference in class here is huge, massive. PSG used to be prone to slip-ups. However, now they're European champions. I don't expect this to happen anymore. I think this is going to be nailed on, and the odds really do reflect that. Then we look at Salford City win. So Salford City are 3 wins in the last 4 versus a Cheltenham Town, who may be one of the worst teams in English League. They've conceded 11 goals in their last 4. In their last fucking 4. This is in the acca. This is a fantastic bet. I think Salford City are going to win. And I think it's going to be absolutely obvious. And then last but not least is RB Leipzig. One of Chris's selections. What a great selection. Because, I have no doubt that they are going to win here. But they are going to use this occasion against Bundesliga whipping boys Heidenheim to bounce back. The problem is here. Now, I've listened to quite a few Bundesliga. I'm a big fan of the Bundesliga, the big, fat Bundesliga. I've listened to a few podcasts about, the previews, and Heidenheim are expected to be relegated. They've got no scoring prowess whatsoever. The problem is that RB Leipzig lost 6-0 to Bayern Munich last time out. Now, yes, Bayern Munich are an absolute force, but I don't know. Do you want to back someone who's just lost 6-0? I think it's definitely going to come in, but it's a little bit too rich for my blood. All right, so I'm gonna step away, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come in. Now I'll show you what my bet looks like. I haven't put it on yet, but I think it's like an 11-fold. It's pretty lumpy. Anyway, I've probably spoke for far too long. By the way, I need to get these videos down to like 10 minutes. This is probably 20 minutes. Anyway, all the best. Muchos lovos. You can hold me to everything I say here. This video is basically the proof. We predicted it, and it comes in. So thank you very much. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.